We have to keep money here in a venture capital process and make that money available to entrepreneurs in rural Nova Scotia, right from Yarmouth to Glace Bay. And I believe, Mr. Speaker, if we do that, if we set the wheels in motion by reaching out to rural Nova Scotia, by going into these communities and saying, you too matter, you matter to us, your small business in rural Nova Scotia, be it in Pictou County, Cumberland County, the Annapolis Valley, wherever. You mean something to us. We want your young people to stay here. We want them to be able to find a job here. We want to set the wheels in motion, Mr. Speaker, to provide a venture capital outlay for these people, financed perhaps by the 1% we were talking about of the public pension plan, which, by the way, is invested somewhere else, either on Wall Street or in London or somewhere else. 1% invested in Nova Scotia could give us the $30 million we need to kickstart a rural economic development strategy in this province. It's not rocket science. It's doing what is best for Nova Scotians. In addition to that, college graduates, our best and our brightest, have to be encouraged to stay here in Nova Scotia, Mr. Speaker. And in order to do that, Mr. Speaker, we have to provide incentives. We have to find out from these young people, if they're interested in staying in Nova Scotia, that there will be incentives and some relief from the Nova Scotia portion of the student loans that these students have had to undertake in order to complete their education. Now, Mr. Speaker, some would say, well, that's wishful thinking. No, it isn't wishful thinking. It's bad enough that the student has to pay the loan back if he's not working. Why wouldn't it be appropriate to encourage business in Nova Scotia to hire these best and these brightest students, keep them in Nova Scotia, and we will reward them by forgiving a portion of the Nova Scotia student loan they incurred? I think that's good business, Mr. Speaker. I think it's also good business to be positioning ourselves in rural Nova Scotia with people on the ground that can deal with the needs of small business people in this province. Something like used to happen in Yarmouth and Sydney with economic development. I can recall having as many as 8 people working with the Department of Economic Development in Sydney, talking to business entrepreneurs from that area, talking to people who had an idea to create jobs, and having the ability, up to a certain amount of funding, to be able to accommodate those requests. That's all gone, Mr. Speaker. There's no more of that. The Department of Economic Development in Sydney has one person, Mr. Speaker, who's running the office, and he's sitting there waiting to retire. He has no money to do anything with, Mr. Speaker. He's just there. He's a good guy. He's done very good work when we were in government. He's certainly not a political person, Mr. Speaker. He cares about the people of our area. His name is Ross Kennedy, Mr. Speaker, and he is a most valuable employee. The problem is his hands are tied. I would suspect that perhaps NSBI would like to do some of the stuff that I'm talking about, would like to go into rural Nova Scotia, but they don't have a mandate to do that. Their mandate is too narrow. Their staff is growing, Mr. Speaker. Their bureaucracy is growing. Their accountability is less than it used to be in this House with economic development. But their vision is somewhat a tunnel vision, because that's their mandate. Very good people working for NSBI. In terms of the CEO of NSBI, a very well-respected person in this province. I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with the mandate, Mr. Speaker. Unlike other people in this legislature or people that are out there that will condemn the people working in these operations, I don't intend to do that. What I'm saying is the structure is wrong, Mr. Speaker. The structure should be geared to going into rural Nova Scotia, into places like Cumberland County, Colchester County, Pictou County, the Valley, Cape Breton, other places, and taking a serious look at what we can do to invest money in those communities to keep people there. And if I may be so bold, Mr. Speaker, the one place that's receiving most of the largesse right now is Halifax Metro, HRM, which really doesn't need it. which really doesn't need it. But they'll take it if they can get it. But the economy here is fine. The economy here is buoyant. Most of the business people here in Metro will tell you to get out of their way and let them go about their business. But the people of rural Nova Scotia and the small entrepreneurs in rural Nova Scotia don't have that option, Mr. Speaker. They don't have that option. They need a leg up. Mr. Speaker, they need a leg up from this government. We need in Nova Scotia a Department of Rural Economic Development here to help them out. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I recognize the Honourable Minister of Justice.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure today to rise and speak going into supply. And Mr. Speaker, one of the things I wanted to take a few minutes to do today is to specifically thank my constituency assistants who are here with me today. And as all honourable members will know, constituency assistants are the backbone of a member and his office. And there's so few hours in the day, it seems, for all of us to address the issues that we face, that it is imperative that we have competent, understanding, compassionate, attentive people who can field the questions that the public comes to our office about. And I know there are some honourable members who I think spouses may even be constituency assistants, and I'm sure they're even doubly aware of that importance of those kind of qualities, and I'm sure they bring those home with them, undoubtedly. But I specifically wanted to speak for a brief while and by name refer to Dale Keddy and Virginia Penny. Dale works out of my Lunenburg office, and Virginia works out of the New Germany office, and we're very proud of the work that they do. They're very busy dealing with all sorts of questions that members have from time to time on a variety of subjects, and I'm sure that all members' constituency assistants are busy, but I think in particular rural members' constituency assistants can be particularly busy at particular times of the year. And I think it's fair to say that there are certain times of the year, particularly late winter and spring, when in rural Nova Scotia, roads become a very, very important issue. And I would like to thank them personally for all the work they do in fielding questions and concerns over a myriad of issues, from snow plowing to potholes and those kinds of things, Mr. Speaker, which are so important to the residents that I serve. And Mr. Speaker, that I guess brings me to the kinds of issues that my constituency office deals with. You know, I'm very fortunate to serve a wonderful part of Nova Scotia, and I know all members are proud of their part of Nova Scotia, but I believe, Mr. Speaker, that Lunenburg County is particularly wonderful a part of Nova Scotia. We're very, very fortunate to have a very beautiful part of Nova Scotia. Mahone Bay and Lunenburg are absolutely beautiful. We have the whole Lahey River Valley, which is a gorgeous part of Nova Scotia. We have some wonderful coastline and beaches. We have Hurdles Beach, we have West Havers Beach, we have Bachman's Beach, and of course then we have islands, great beauty of those islands. And so I'm very fortunate to have such a beautiful place to represent. But, you know, Mr. Speaker, I wanted to talk for a moment about the progress that we've been able to make in the last number of years in serving the people of Lunenburg. And I'm very proud, and one of the honourable members referred to roads and transportation concerns. Well, I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, unquestionably, the people of Lunenburg and Lunenburg County as a whole are better off today as far as roads are concerned than they were in 1999.
Here, 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 here.
You know, Mr. Speaker, if you look at the number of roads that have been done in the period from 1999 to present, and you compare that to the period of roads that were done from 93 to 1999 by the previous administration, we have made tremendous strides in improving the quality of the road network available to our citizens.
Absolutely.
And Mr. Speaker, I can name some of those roads. We have the Ramey Road. We have the Mullock Road, Mr. Speaker. Wonderful improvements on those roads. We have Highway 10, Mr. Speaker, where there's wonderful improvements been on those roads. And Mr. Speaker, we've also have scheduled for this year a further improvement to Highway number 3, Mr. Speaker, a road from Mahone Bay to Martins River, beautiful Mahone Bay, a major tourist destination in this province, and we're going to be doing something to improve the quality of the road. One of the honourable members raised a question about that road. Well, the Minister of Transportation had already dealt with that problem, Mr. Speaker. He had already called the tender out for fixing the problem that was raised here in the House prior to it being raised. And Mr. Speaker, there are other roads. There's a road called the Newburn Road this year, which will be being paved, as I understand. Another very important piece of our highway infrastructure that serves the needs of rural Nova Scotians. It allows those people that live in those communities to get to work, to get to doctors, to get to all sorts of other important things. But most importantly, it also allows the businesses that are located in those areas to prosper and thrive. So, Mr. Speaker, you know, we are making real strides to improve the quality of our transportation infrastructure. There's much more to be done. Much more to be done, Mr. Speaker. And I would let it appear to anyone that I believe the job is done. There is much more to be done. There are many more bushes to be fixed, many more potholes to be fixed. There are many more culverts to be installed. But we are making improvements. We're making strides. It is better today than it was before. And that is all that anyone can expect from any government, is to make a constant improvement in our infrastructure, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also would like to take a moment to talk about some of our industries. And for example, one industry that's been tremendously successful in my area of rural Nova Scotia is Composites Atlantic. Composites Atlantic, Mr. Speaker, is not the stereotypical industry that some people believe is located in rural Nova Scotia. Mr. Speaker, they manufacture high-quality aircraft parts right in Lunenburg. They also, by the way, manufacture parts for space as well. They're a very, very high-tech, progressive employer providing good, permanent jobs to the people of my constituency and other constituencies in rural Nova Scotia. You know, Mr. Speaker, we should be proud of those kind of jobs and the kind of quality people that work there. There is a company that could have located anywhere in the world, Mr. Speaker, but they chose to locate in Nova Scotia. They have wonderful management, they have good staff, and that is the combination for success. But they're not alone. We have other wonderful industries, obviously, in Lunenburg County. We have Michelin Tires. And my understanding, the Michelin Tires plant located in Lunenburg County is, in fact, the very best Michelin plant in the Michelin system. Something we can be all proud of in Nova Scotia, because there's a worldwide company, and we can prove that Nova Scotians can do a world-class job. Now, we have other industries, Mr. Speaker, in my area. There are other companies, and there's too numerous to mention. But I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, these companies are very competitive. They provide goods and services in the world market, Mr. Speaker, because we must remember that as Nova Scotians, we're competing on the world stage. We cannot allow ourselves to have our horizons limited by underselling ourselves, because we have both the people and the ability and the hard work to make Nova Scotians very competitive. Now, Mr. Speaker, part of the success story that is our government's track record in rural Nova Scotia has been the working together of both the private sector and the public sector to make opportunities possible for our people. And you know, Mr. Speaker, for example, Composites Atlantic was originally, the plant initially was begun using a certain amount of government money and investment money from a European company. And that has worked out tremendously. And so now that company is now manufacturing parts for companies like Bombardier and Boeing and for Airbus. And those are world-class companies, and we're here. And Mr. Speaker, if and when the government of Canada can finally get itself around to replacing the helicopter fleet, which should have been replaced 10 or 11 years ago, Mr. Speaker, there will be more opportunities in my riding for more people to be working. And we will be putting our armed forces personnel at less risk. And that is an example, Mr. Speaker, of the kind of important investment that the federal government can be doing, that could be doing immediately, that would make a difference in rural Nova Scotia. And so in closing, Mr. Speaker, you know, I believe that our government has done wonderful things to promote Lunenburg and Lunenburg County, my riding of Lunenburg and Lunenburg County. But there's much more to be done. And that is where we require not only the municipalities and the province, but we require the Government of Canada to really make a real difference in making my part of Nova Scotia, as in other parts of Nova Scotia, the prosperous place that our people expect. So in closing, Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the members for an opportunity to talk briefly about my riding and about the promise that I believe my riding holds for Nova Scotians. Thank you.
Thank you. The motion is carried.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to call the committee to order and recognize the government House Leader.
Chairman, please call the estimates of the Minister of Health.
Thank you. We're continuing with the estimates of the Department of Health, and we're just going to give staff members and the Minister an opportunity to be seated, and we will start the process. Thank you, Minister. I would like to recognize a member of the NDP caucus, the member from Dartmouth North. Member, your turn is starting. You have 1 hour in turn. Thank you. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for the acknowledgement first, and I want to thank the Minister and his representatives here, the administration, for being here during this during the budget estimates of health. Also, Mr. Chairman, I want to thank my colleague from Halifax Needham, who is the NDP critic for health, on the very important issue, and for giving me the opportunity to take some time out of her budget estimates in order to speak on this issue. Mr. Chairman, I want to go back to the election campaign between July and August of 2003. And the reason I want to take that step back, Mr. Chairman, is because of this. It's because it was during the 2003 election campaign, Mr. Speaker, that when less than a year ago, that we were out there campaigning on the campaign trail. And it was then, Mr. Chairman, that we heard a whole host of issues around the Department of Health. We have heard the issues with respect to the increased cost of pharmacare. We have heard the issues with respect to long-term care nursing home fees that were being charged to seniors over and above their shelter component. All those fees that in fact were charged to them that should have been a component of the health budget and should have been covered under the Department of Health. Also, Mr. Chairman, we have heard from many individuals. I should say, Mr. Chairman, during my campaigning of the constituency that I represent, a whole host of issues around the Department of Health. Mr. Chairman, I just want to go on and say that if I can, some of the issues centered around alternative medicine, some of the issues centered around the concern with respect to rather the Department of Health should be funding wheelchairs, and should they be covered under the MSI campaign, around seniors issues with respect to seniors housing accommodations. wait times in hospitals, elective surgeries with respect to seniors, Mr. Chairman, a whole host of those issues. They ran the gambit during that election campaign. And I want to tell you, Mr. Chairman, during the budget of 2003, for the 2003 fiscal year, the Minister of Health did not raise pharmacare fees. And during that budget estimates, I did have the opportunity to get up and speak, and Hansard will record that I have said that this is an election year and there will be no increases in a pharmacare. But I said you can be assured that next year, in the fiscal year of 2004-2005, there will be increases in pharmacare. And Mr. Chairman, when I was out there on the campaign trail, I warned the seniors who were contributing and who were a part of the Seniors Pharmacare program that there in fact would be an increase in the pharmacare, and that this was only during an election year in which the government would lapse from that. My hope, Mr. Chairman, that that would not be the case and that I would not be standing here in this legislative assembly talking about an increase in pharmacare. Now, I do know that the minister has said that that increase in pharmacare resulted in approximately, I believe, 787 other individuals being removed from the cost of pharmacare because from the premium cost of pharmacare, because the income level would now be set at $24,000, I think, for a single person, and approximately $28,000 for a family, two persons, for a married couple. Mr. Chairman, I have received some emails with respect to that very issue. And although it may not appear as though it's a lot, but a person who earns an income of $28,000 a year, particularly living in the metropolitan area, there are significant costs. That again is an added burden because I believe that the increase had gone to an additional $54 for each member of that family. That would have brought it up to approximately, I believe, $390 for each of those members of that family to pay into the pharmacare program. And if you have two people, that's approximately $780, Mr. Chairman, that comes out of their budget that they now have to budget for. And Mr. Chairman, I know that when I talk about this very important issue, I do know and I do want to harken back to the 1993 election campaign at the federal level. And at the federal level, the then federal Liberal Party had talked about a national pharmacare program, one that would be consistent across the province and across the country. I do know that that national pharmacare program is obviously off the table, and I don't know. So I do know that, Mr. Chairman, that the minister will probably respond to this particular issue that I want to bring forward first during my opportunity to speak, and that's rather the government can tell me, one, how it justified the increases to the seniors' pharmacare plan, and number two, if in fact during the minister's conferences on health, if in fact the minister or any other province has talked about a national pharmacare program. And if they have, if in fact there is ongoing discussions with respect to a national pharmacare program across the country. I believe the reason why, Mr. Chairman, this is significantly important because there is an inequity across the country with respect to the delivery of pharmacare programs that's available to people across the country. Some of the wealthier provinces have better, some of the poorer provinces do not, and that in itself creates an inequity across the country. And my hope is that our Minister of Health, would have had some conversation at ministers' forums or at ministers' discussions with respect to this. So I will start off, Mr. Chairman, by asking the minister, and I think the minister has duly noted the two questions that I had asked him. One, once again to repeat, would be, how did the minister arrive at the cost to each individual with respect to the increase in seniors pharmacare program? And number two, is there ongoing talks at the federal level with respect to a national pharmacare program?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and want to thank the honourable member for his interest in this. I know it's a genuine interest, and the first thing we should note is that what we strove to achieve with respect to the amount of money that is charged to seniors is to maintain a ratio that has existed with respect to the amount paid by government and the amount paid by seniors in this province. And that ratio is approximately a 3/4 to 1/4 ratio. And we have achieved that with the changes that were made in the current year relative to the changes in the premium level. And I do want to point out that there was no change or alteration of the copay with respect to seniors. So the reality of the situation is that the cost of drugs are projected to be $146.5 million in the coming year, and that's a significant increase over the previous year. We have the amount paid by government, the amount paid by government of that 146.5 is $108.9 million, and the amount that is paid by the seniors of the province is an amount with the premium. What is the premium amount? Yeah, with the premium is $15.8 million, but with the copay, it's estimated to be about $24 million would be the amount that's paid, and that helps to retain that ratio. And that, Mr. Chair, is an extremely challenging aspect of the delivery of health care in this province is our capacity to be able to provide coverage to our seniors. At the time when we were making the announcement, we of course took time to look at what takes place in other jurisdictions relative to these programs. And it immediately became clear that it's very difficult to compare precisely one program to another, especially in Atlantic Canada, because that's where we tend to want to look. But what we were able to say in a very definitive way about our program is that it is the most comprehensive program that is provided in Atlantic Canada. And for most seniors, it is a more generous program. I can't say that in all cases because there are certain circumstances in some provinces. The way it is administered is different with different categories. Ours is a more straightforward, simple presentation. But it is accurate to say that ours is the most comprehensive program that is delivered in Atlantic Canada. Now, in terms of the national scene, the agreement that was reached by the First Ministers was an agreement to address the catastrophic drug situation in the country. And that is something that is still under the Health Reform Fund. The we believe that the federal government has a role to play in this, and planning is underway now for an expanded drug plan for Nova Scotia, and we're working with other provinces and the federal government on program details, including what portion of the reform fund is for drug costs and who will be eligible. So it is I'm not so certain that it is a national drug program in the sense that the honourable member references it, but it is a national approach to addressing the provision of pharmacare to the citizens, not just of Nova Scotia, but of Canada. And the catastrophic drug scene is the thing that is capturing most of the attention at this juncture. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. The honourable member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and it's always a pleasure to hear that the government is looking at an expanding of the pharmacare program. And the reason why I say it's important to note that it's important to recognize that there needs to be an expanding of the pharmacare program, because numbers of people are left out. And I don't know if the minister or his department has actually put any work into finding out what kind of a program, if the federal government is not interested in a national pharmacare program, but through the catastrophic drug initiative, it might be able to enhance some of the drug program services. I guess the thing is has the minister or his department done any work with respect to looking at a province-wide pharmacare program or a Nova Scotia pharmacare program, similar maybe to the program in Quebec? And the reason why I say that is because we do know that a large number of citizens in this province, because of the aging population that we have, we do know that the seniors are covered under a pharmacare program. We do know that disabled people who are not employed are covered under a pharmacare program. Their costs. Persons on social assistance who are normally covered under some sort of a pharmacare are covered under the pharmacare program as well. And we do know that people who are employed primarily with major corporations and people who are unionized usually negotiate a benefit package in their collective agreement which covers their drugs and pharmacare and so on. So having looked at that picture, there would only be a small sector of the province in Nova Scotia that would be needed to be covered under such a program. And I'm wondering if, in fact, and that would be primarily the sector of low-income earners, people who do not receive benefit packages from their employer. So I guess, Mr. Chairman, to you, although I'm not sure if your department has looked or done any analysis with respect to that, but I'm wondering if you can in fact enlighten me as to what your department has done with respect to looking at it on a national level.
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. A couple of points that I can make in response to the honourable member's question. Again, on the national scene, the work that's being done on the catastrophic drug program would address those drugs that are most expensive for people, and obviously would address the people in the category to which he refers, those who are not covered in any way by a program. So there definitely will be some improvements with the implementation of that of a catastrophic drug program throughout the country relative to those individuals. Again, this whole discussion and the whole discussion around the estimates focuses on the budget that we have, and a great deal of that discussion, of course, will point in the direction of things that we're not doing because of the resources that are available, despite the fact that we're adding an additional $230 million to the health budget. There are a lot of things that are still outstanding challenges for us, and some of them are huge challenges. If we can implement the catastrophic drug program, and I am confident that that will happen, we will address some of that, but we have to remember that we're starting with a figure of approximately a fifth of Nova Scotians who do not have coverage of any kind. And that is a significant number relative to the resources that we have available.
The honourable member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I do know that the government has increased the health budget, and I do know that the health budget at present is some $2.36 billion, I do believe, and represents 40% of all the revenue that comes in to the government to deliver the health program or the health services that are needed by Nova Scotians. The reason why I wanted to do the follow-through with respect to the drug program is because I do know that I received a letter not so long ago from a group of individuals called the Fabre Support. Actually, it was called the Fabre Support Group. And this is a unique disease. It affects some 65 Nova Scotians. And I believe there was approximately 6 Nova Scotians who were on a pharmacare project, a pilot project, or some sort of a health initiative project, whereby those individuals had some 16 Nova Scotians, excuse me, not 6, but 16 Nova Scotians, whom in fact were receiving the drug treatment, and certainly not having to concern themselves with the cost. However, that program, I guess, comes to an end at the end of April of this year. And I do believe that the timing is appropriate, that the budget for the Minister of Health should be here at a time when we're talking about this. Now, I do know that, I do believe that the Minister's, I shouldn't say I know, but I do believe that the Minister's Department has made comment with respect to possibly having a look at this particular issue. So I asked the minister, would that be one of the concerns that could be addressed under the catastrophic plan? And if in fact it could be under the catastrophic drug initiative program, and if it could be, or if it can be, I should say, where can the minister give us an indication today, rather his department is in fact looking at this very important issue, and if in fact the minister is going to come to a conclusion sometime in the future. I believe there might be an answer, and I believe the minister's department might have already said there might be an answer by April. We do know that every life is important in the province, and we do know that if we can assist those individuals, that it's significantly important to do so. So my question to the minister is, once again, where is his department with respect to addressing what I would term, and the minister can correct me, is rare diseases that occur in the province that need special treatment?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I should establish that any benefit that we might expect to receive from the catastrophic drug program is a benefit that we would not see for another 2 years. So in terms of there being money available to us in the short term, the answer is no. In the longer term, obviously we hope that we would have a program in place that would be of assistance to us with respect to this, this difficult challenge that's before us. There are a couple of dates that are relevant in terms of the Fabry disease question. And one of those is a date that relates to the drug Fabrazine, which 6 patients in this province are receiving currently, and that the company that manufactures that. I'm not going to get into a long, protracted discussion about what's gone on with them, but unlike the company that provides Repligal, who have agreed to extend coverage until such time as another decision, which I'll address in a moment, is made. The first company that manufactures Fabrazine have not made that commitment to us in a manner that we felt appropriate. We have, of course, been in discussions and constant contact with the doctor who is treating these patients, and he is confident that their needs can be addressed in the short term, despite the decision taken with respect to this drug at the end of April and from that period on. So he's confident he can address their needs. The real date that is significant, of course, is the final process, and this comes forward in July, when the National Common Drug Review is expected to be complete on these two drugs. And it is only at that time that we would be in a position to look at their decision, whether it is a positive or a negative decision with respect to this, or look at everything that they have to say with respect to it. It is only at that time that we would be in a decision-making mode relative to these drugs for the patients who are suffering from Fabry disease. So there are 2 dates. One is with respect to a single drug. The other is a date that relates to the review process, and that it's the results of that review process will determine what attitude we would take relative to a final decision on the use of these drugs.
The honourable member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm pleased to see that the minister enlightened me that, in fact, the funding or monies that would be available to provinces is some 2 years away with respect to catastrophic drugs. On the other hand, I guess I can ask the minister this short snapper is that if, in fact, the money were available today from the federal government and dispensed to the provinces to use on catastrophic drugs, would this be one of the areas that would be covered for under that catastrophic drug definition?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
I appreciate the concern of the honourable member, and it is a genuine concern. However, the question he proposes is slightly hypothetical in the sense that it is presented out of context relative to the entire decision-making process that would have to be undertaken. And I don't mean to be not to be as straightforward as I would like to be in terms of answering your question, but I have to put the answer in context of the total decision-making process that would be before us at the time when the funds would be available, and of course all of the needs that are there. Obviously, it is a question that would have a very, very high priority relative to any decisions to be made with respect to funding. But I can't just take that single situation and make a response to it without doing it in the context of the whole situation that would present itself at the time when funding would become available. Thank you.
Thank you. The honourable member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I can appreciate what the minister is saying, is that obviously his department has not looked at what will be all encompassing within the funding that's going to become available through the catastrophic fund allocation. I don't want to get into areas that whereby we identify individuals on individual basis, but the minister is aware that individuals contact the local constituency offices. They contact them to talk to government departments on particular issues that may affect them. And I do know that there was this one particular individual who suffers from a traumatic brain injury and a very serious one. And I do know that the minister's department has in fact corresponded with the individual. The individual is not a member of the Dartmouth North constituency, but has brought the issue to my attention. And I do know that the individual is looking at alternative sources of medicine with respect to therapeutic therapy and those sorts of things that are not presently covered under the Department of Health. And it may seem somewhat vague, Minister, without identifying the individual, but I don't think it's the appropriate place here during budget estimates to identify the individual simply because I did not ask permission. But I'm wondering, through the Department of Health, are there funds available for alternative medicine or alternative sources to health rehabilitation and medicine for individuals with respect to, for example, with respect to brain injuries and serious brain problems?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
No, thank you. I've learned that there's no point in talking unless the red light is on. I was waiting for it to come on. I may not have clearly understood the honourable member's question, and if I haven't, I apologize. But my sense of the question is, are there alternate treatments that are available with respect to brain injury? And the answer is no, there are not alternate treatments available. Is there more to be done with respect to the treatment of brain injuries? The answer is obviously yes, and it is a matter that when funds become available, that we would want to move forward on. And however, it's not something that we've been able to include in this year's budget. However, it is definitely something that is very much on our radar screen and something that we would like to be able to address in the very near future, because there is an obvious need to do that. And I hope that I will be Minister of Health long enough to be able to come forward to the House and say that we have in fact addressed that, because it's a priority of mine.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to tell the Minister that in fact the type of therapy that the individual in question had asked the Department of Health to assist him in, because the individual has a traumatic brain injury, and such a traumatic brain injury where the individual has constant headaches, constantly. They're a very serious problem, and the only way apparently to address the issue, and he has consulted medical expertise in the field with respect to what can be done for the individual, only to come to find out that it's not available to him, certainly not available in this province, but in another province. And it's called hyperbaric treat therapy is what it's actually termed as. And I don't know, someone in the medical field would obviously know that, but it's a therapy that in fact gives the individual the opportunity to at least have some semblance of sanity because of the traumatic experience they went through and because of the pressures on the brain and so on, that it causes these very severe headaches and so on. And this kind of therapy addresses that particular need, yet is not funded by the Department of Health. I'm pleased to hear that the minister has made comment to say that he would hope that in future that may be covered, but it's of no consolation to the Nova Scotian at present. So I guess my question is once again to the minister on this particular issue is if in fact the department does not cover it, how does this Nova Scotian get to enjoy a reasonable quality of life knowing that medical treatment is not available to this person in this province?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And I must say to the honourable member that he is speaking of a treatment with which I'm unfamiliar in terms of the nature of the treatment, how it's administered, and what the expected outcomes of that treatment are. What I will undertake to do is to do our own research and find out precisely what the treatment is, or at least gather as much information as we can relative to the treatment, and give you the department's response relative to it, if that's satisfactory to the honourable member.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I thank the minister, and I'm sure that I can refer the individual to the Department of Health so that the Department of Health may be better able to understand the needs of the individual and the individual's request for the kind of treatment. Once again, the question of persons with disabilities, and I do know that I've brought this issue forward before, and it's a very very important issue to me, Mr. Chairman. And I, for the love of me, can't understand why the Department of Health cannot provide funding under the Medical Services Insurance, or MSI, in this province for this particular need. The need that I'm talking about, Mr. Chairman, is the need for disabled persons to have wheelchairs covered under the Medical Services Insurance in this province. I don't know if the minister is aware, but it has become increasingly difficult for charitable organizations and persons with disabilities on fixed income and persons who have no incomes at all, who are disabled individuals, to fundraise for wheelchairs. We are in the 21st century. We are still asking individuals with disabilities to come up with a portion of that cost-sharing fund, and something that I find apprehensible, Mr. Chairman. I just simply cannot understand. I should say reprehensible. I cannot understand why this item cannot be covered under the Department of Health budget. And I would like to have the minister or his department give me an explanation as to why it can't be covered. One time we could be assured and rely upon agencies like the Lions, the Kinsmen, the Aquinas, a number of organizations, the Rotary, a number of, not to mention who could come forward and help assist in cost sharing the funding for a wheelchair. However, that doesn't happen. Fundraising is extremely difficult. It's extremely difficult to get the money from those agencies and organizations in this time. And unfortunately, many disabled people are not only coming begging to their government to be compensated for a mobility-assisted device, but they're also going to an agency to seek that compensation as well. And I think that the minister needs to explain to me and his department as to why we cannot fund those wheelchairs.
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the honourable member speaks about something with which I am familiar through my own constituency office, and have individuals who are struggling in order to be able to afford mobility devices, and we sometimes wind up finding very unique ways to provide them with some assistance, but the situation the honourable member describes is a situation that is real. It is a question that relates to resources and the amount of funding that is available. We do a great deal of work with respect to restoring mobility through prosthesis devices. That's a significant expenditure and within the department, but there are always, it appears, and one of the first things I've learned when I became Minister of Health is that there are always new directions in which you can go in order to meet the demands that are out there. In answering the honourable member's question, I answer it not without sympathy to the situation he describes, because I've encountered that, as I indicated, many times in my own constituency work. However, there are limits to the resources that are available, and again, it's that is the best answer I can provide, Mr. Chairman. It's a resource question, and I wish it were otherwise.
The Honourable Member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and it's unfortunate that this is looked upon as a resource issue. I don't know how the minister ranks the delivery of services with respect to health in his department, and why it is that disabled persons who have mobility problems are at the bottom end of the resource funding in his department, or the utilization of resources to those individuals. I will tell the Honourable Minister that he is absolutely right. His department funds 100% prostheses. Anyone who's injured in an automobile accident and so on, who does not have insurance to cover prostheses, is covered by this province and is covered under the MSI program. However, orthotics are not covered under the MSI program, and in some particular cases are less expensive than in fact the prostheses. And again, all these are used to make disabled persons mobile. It's a mobility device. It's something that the government should have on the top of its priority. It should be ranked, if not number 1 or 2, with respect to making persons, have the opportunity to live in an environment and be able to enjoy that environment the same as all other able-bodied citizens. And if, in fact, that again is orthotics, as well as the wheelchairs, and I cannot, for the sake of me, accept the minister's response to the fact that this is a matter of resources. A matter of resources also implies that there is a hierarchy within the department, and a hierarchy on how the government's going to spend its dollars. And I don't know if the department has given consideration or measured out just exactly the number of disabled persons in Nova Scotia who would be in need of a mobility device, and if in fact the government's department, the minister's health department, has in fact done an assessment of what those costs would be. It would be comforting to me, as I said across this floor, to hear the minister tell me if in fact there are costs, what those costs are to deliver such a program to those Nova Scotians who most, in fact, need that program. And if the minister has done that, I certainly appreciate hearing from him.
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have such numbers with me this afternoon. If those numbers are available within the department, I'd be pleased to share them with the honourable member. But I would like to point out, Mr. Chairman, that we do work with and through the Red Cross to provide mobility devices in nursing homes, and we are currently working on extending that to people who are who are in-home support clients of the department. And so, we're pushing the threshold out there, if you like, with respect to this coverage. But it is not available to the general public currently. And so some low-income individuals are eligible for some assistance through the Department of Community Services relative to this. But in answer to the specific question of the honourable member, I don't have such a number with me today. If it does exist, we'll be pleased to share it with him.
The Honourable Member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I will go one step farther. If it doesn't exist within the department, the numbers that I'm asking for and the assessment, if there has been, an evaluation with respect to, I should say, analysis done with respect to the cost of delivering such a program, will the minister entertain the thought of at least looking at it and coming up through his department with some sort of a cost formula so that we in this legislature would know what the costs are out there to deliver a wheelchair program to disabled persons and an orthotic program to disabled persons in the province. That's number one. Number two, I'm wondering if the minister has given any consideration, and it should come through the Department of Health, although there's some argument of rather it should come through the Department of Community Services or not. But I think it should come through the Department of Health because it is a health-related issue. And those are the technical aids, like the minister has recently talked about, the walkers and so on, that he has a program with in fact, the Red Cross. Would the minister be interested in entertaining the notion of developing a technical aids program, a pilot project, something to see how successful it may be with disabled persons engaged in the delivery of such a project?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank the honourable member for the question. We work, and we're part of the Disabled Persons Commission in the province in the sense that a number of the ministers meet with them on a regular basis, and I will undertake to bring bring the request that the honourable member has made forward to that commission for their discussion and enlightenment with respect to the issue, and any information that we have within the department would be very pleased to share with the commission. So I guess what I'm saying is that I think it's an appropriate matter for to be brought forward. We have many items that we don't have funds or resources to fund programs, but we still know that at some stage we need to address certain programs, and we're always doing the planning that's required in order to achieve that. So with respect to his questions, those are matters that would be pleased to bring forward, not just within the department, but through the Disabled Persons Commission as well.
The honourable member for Dartmouth North.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm pleased, and I do apologize for being remiss in not mentioning the Disabled Persons Commission of the province, which I do know approximately, I believe, 5 ministers at least are on the table discussion with the Disabled Persons Commission. And I do know that the Disabled Persons Commission works very hard on behalf of disabled persons, and that in fact it receives funding from the province to do its work. And I do want to say that they have probably talked about the very issue that I talked about. All I want to know is if there has been some correspondence, if there has been some analysis done with respect to cost of some of these issues in my 6 years in this House that I have brought up. I think it's significantly important that disabled persons know that they are on a priority list with the government of this province, and that regardless of what department it is, that their issues and their concerns are going to receive equally as important attention as any other issue that is the issue of the day for government. That brings me to another very important issue again, in which I do know that the Minister of Health Department has addressed, and that's with respect to home care services. And the number of people during the election campaign, again, I want to harken back to the number of people who feel that the home care services that they have been accustomed to and have been delivered to them is now being reduced. They go in and there's assessments done of the individual seeking home care. A number of those individuals who may have had 3 or 4 days of home care, may have had 15, 20 hours of home care services, are now consistently seeing themselves cut back and not receiving the level of home care treatment that they received before. I don't know how many files I have in my office on that issue. And in particular, individuals who are disabled who go through a process called, the caseworker comes out, does the evaluation, and the individual goes through a process of an evaluation, and I believe it's termed the minimum data set. It's a national assessment evaluation form that's placed out and does an evaluation and an assessment on individuals who are receiving in-home support, home care, individuals who are receiving home care, and then all of a sudden, some of these individuals who are disabled, in fact, the questions that are asked for that, and I don't have, Minister, your department would have the kind of questions that may be asked of individuals with respect to doing that evaluation. And many of the disabled individuals who have gone through that process have told me that it is certainly dehumanizing. It certainly implies that because an individual is disabled, that somehow they have an intellectual problem as well. And some of the questions, therefore, are evaluated and assessed on that. And I don't know, Minister, if your department is aware or if you have had concerns and so on. I do know that in one particular case, your department did restore some of the home care services to one of the individuals whom in fact appealed the process. But there are many individuals whom in fact are going through this assessment and then all of a sudden finding that their home care supports are reduced. Now, I don't know if this is a way for the minister's department to save money, or if this is a way to reduce the kind of supports given to those persons in need. But this crosses the barrier of, it crosses the boundary, I should say, of not only disabled persons, but seniors as well. And I'm sure the minister and his department has heard those calls and complaints. And I've heard them all across the province with respect to I should say, the reduced level of services and home care supports for Nova Scotians.
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I can indicate to the honourable member that indeed there are a number of inquiries that come forward to the department relative to the process, but the balance and the challenge that the department has always is to on the one hand, ensure that they're doing their very best to address the needs of the individuals that they are serving, but on the other hand, to ensure that they're serving as many people as they possibly can. And it is appropriate to reevaluate the needs of people that are receiving the service from time to time. And we are employing, it's not just a national standard, it's an international standard with respect to the assessment that is done. And the reason for doing reassessments from time to time is that it's appropriate to ensure that our resources are being deployed throughout the province in a manner that best meets the needs of everyone who require these services. Circumstances change. The circumstances of individuals change. For some, their circumstances improve. For others, their circumstances may deteriorate. For others who are not receiving a service, they come to the point where the service is necessary for them. And so it is appropriate that the reassessments be done. I believe that the fact that the standard that's being used is one that is used internationally gives it some credibility. It's not the first time that, as I've indicated at the outset of my remarks, that I have heard individuals express concern about the process. However, it is appropriate for reevaluations to take place. And I can point out to the honourable member, and I think he implied that in his comments when he said that some services were restored to individuals, that there is an appeal process, and the appeal process at times is there in order to ensure that people's needs are being appropriately met.
And I have so many other questions to ask you, and now I'm being advised by the chair that I only have 3 minutes left, and I really wanted to dwell a bit more on this, and I might get the opportunity to come back at a later day. But in the event that I don't, I want to ask the minister if he can give me some insight with respect to the senior secretariat. Now, I do know that in the speech from the Minister of Finance that there's an additional $150,000 set up to the Nova Scotia Task Force on Aging and to launch a new efforts to prevent elder abuse. And that's done by the Nova Scotia Senior Citizen Secretariat. And I want to commend the government for that. I think that this is a positive approach. It's a proactive approach. I think that the minister and his department, along with the Nova Scotia Scotia Senior Citizen Secretariat will do a fine job, but I'm wondering if he can enlighten me briefly with the period of time that he has on how the task force is going to work, if it's going to go out through across the province, how that's going to manage itself, and when the information comes back, if there's going to be a final report to the legislature on what it's finding, and if the minister is committed and obligated to supporting those recommendations that might come forth. Nova Scotia's been very lucky, Mr. Chairman, in that we haven't really seen elder abuse within institutions within this province, or have encountered very little of that. But we do know that it exists in this province to some extent. So if the minister can respond, thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And the honourable member is correct. The task force has, in fact, been established, and it will review and analyze or do an analysis of publications and approaches in other jurisdictions, so that we'll see what's happening elsewhere with respect to the aging process. We will do public consultations, and that will be carried out. There will be an analysis of the feedback from consultations completed and a summary report prepared, and there will be a strategy for positive aging, okay, that will be put forward and implemented. And I'm pleased to say that there are two things, but not just the additional money that we've been able to put into the Senior Citizen Secretariat this year, but, Mr. Chairman, on a procedure point, it is a separate line item in the budget, and I don't know if we're in order discussing it now or not, but rather than stifle discussion, I chose to answer the question at this time.
I now recognize a member of the Liberal caucus, the member for Richmond, for the next hour.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Minister, I'm sure you'll recall this document. I think you may have seen it before. Strong leadership, clear course. It was the what's been referred to as the Blue Book. It was called I believe, the John Ham Plan for Nova Scotia. On the front page of that, it says, as your Premier, my top priority will be to fix the healthcare system. 5 years later, under your government, I'm wondering if the Minister of Health could tell us, is our healthcare system in Nova Scotia today now fixed?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Indeed, the healthcare system in this province, relative to what it was in 1999, you could use a whole myriad of words to describe the situation that we have now relative to what existed in 1999. But what I can tell you is this. It is that there is a very real focus and direction with respect to the Department of Health in this province. That did not exist in 1999. So the extent to which that has been improved, we can say that the healthcare system is fixed. There is a plan of action relative to the provision of health care in this province. There was no plan of action in 1999. There was a philosophy of throwing money at it. So the extent to which there is a plan of action and that there is a regular reporting to the people of this province relative to the activities of the Department of Health, then I would say it is fixed. Mr. Chairman, or Madam Chair, with respect to the resources that are available to the citizens of this province, there are more doctors available now. There are 800 more full-time nurses practicing in this province than there were in 1999. So the extent to which we have improved the resources available for health care in this province, then I would say it is fixed. If the honourable member is asking if there are tasks that need to be done into the future, then the answer obviously is yes, because the more focused you become, the better you plan, the better you establish your priorities, then the more you understand the need to not only address those additional priorities, but to change the manner in which you approach the delivery of health care within this province. And yesterday, in the examination of these estimates, there was considerable discussion relative to the issue of planning in health care. And I'm quite pleased to take this opportunity to address the issue of planning relative to health care. And I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about the planning efforts that are underway within the Department of Health and which have been underway for a number of years. These initiatives have resulted in real positive change in the health of Nova Scotians. My concern is that someone listening just to the comments of some opposition members would believe that the healthcare system in Nova Scotia is in total disarray. And I would like to set the record straight, Madam Chair. I would direct the members of the House to the document Your Health Matters, which the honourable member likes to hold up documents. This is the document, Your Health Matters, and that is the plan that was presented by my predecessor to the citizens of Nova Scotia, and it sets out a plan with respect to the delivery of health care. And the government's health plan was released in March of 2003, and it laid out the priorities and directions to guide health care funding for 3 years. Our plan stated that better information is critical in good decision-making. Our priorities for the healthcare system as outlined in Your Health Matters include the following: helping people stay healthy. And there was a significant announcement made today by the Minister of Health Promotion and the Premier with respect to that objective, and it is reflected in this document, Healthy Nova Scotians, Healthy Nova Scotia. Training, recruiting, and keeping more doctors and nurses and healthcare professionals in this province, and I have already made reference to those numbers. Shortening wait lists for tests, treatment, and care. Investing money where and when it counts. Caring for our seniors, and community-based planning. All of those items are being addressed and have been addressed in this particular budget, and we will continue to address them into the future. The creation of the Office of Health Promotion by this government was an important step in health planning to work to prevent disease from happening and to help make and keep Nova Scotians healthy. Today, on April 27th, the Premier and Minister MacDonald announced a new $500,000 grant program to get people more active as part of the province's plan for a healthier Nova Scotia. The plan is supported by $3.6 million in new funding, a 24% increase that the Office of Health Promotion is receiving in this year's budget. So, Madam Chair, we're well on the road to addressing and fixing the issue of healthy Nova Scotians. We know we can make a difference when we concentrate efforts. We see that in the public education initiatives to stop smoking. In 2001, we launched a comprehensive tobacco strategy with the help of a wide range of stakeholders. In just 2 years, the province's smoking rate has dropped by 5%. Madam Chair, this is a significant accomplishment. This past year, 46 new physicians were recruited to Nova Scotia through our Department of Health recruitment efforts working with the district health authorities. Not only are we attracting more doctors, but they are staying. We have more doctors per capita than any other province in Canada except Quebec. We have also seen progress in our health plan in the area of the number of nurses working. We have 156 more RNs working at the beginning of 2004 than 2003. And since 1999, we have almost 800 more nurses working in permanent versus casual positions compared to 1999. That, Madam Chair, sounds like a good fix to me. Last year, we funded an additional 8 seats in the first-year class of Dalhousie Medical School, and we will sustain that increase for this year's first class of medical students. That, Madam Chair, is a significant element of a fix for health care. We also invested in spots for 25 Nova Scotians in medical technologist training in New Brunswick. So that will add, Madam Chair, to the fix in health care. We made a commitment in Your Health Matters to address wait times and to begin to work to set province-wide standards for wait time information. A committee consisting of physicians and senior healthcare administrators from across the province and Department of Health staff met throughout the year. Their recommendations to government were released in January of 2004. In this budget, we are investing $465,000 to begin development of an approach to gather standardized province-wide wait time information. And Madam Chair, that will put us in a position this summer when we will be a leader in this country relative to addressing the issue of wait times and meeting the concerns of the Government of Canada. Through evidence-based decision-making, we were able to focus our resources where they would have the greatest potential to improve the province's health. And we have seen progress, and the successes are notable. As a result of $4.4 million investment last year in Capital Health's cardiac catheterization lab, Capital Health's wait times for cardiac procedures have been brought to within national wait time standards. That, Madam Chair, sounds like a fix to me. In many cases, reducing wait times by 1/2 to 2/3 from a year earlier. That is a great accomplishment. With the purchase of 2 MRIs, one for Great Britain and one for the IWK, access to MRI services has been enhanced and wait times are improved. In Capital Health, the average wait time is now 45.2 days, almost 3 times less than 148.2 days people were waiting in March of 2003. And I want to assure members that urgent or emergency MRIs are done immediately. In Nova Scotia, 1 in 7 people is over the age of 65. And we have one of the fastest growing seniors population as a percentage of the total population in the country. These demographics are important to our health care planning. And we have been increasing our long-term care budget to help meet the needs of that growing population. We have one of the most comprehensive senior pharmacare programs in the country. Our staff consults with representatives of seniors groups concerning changes we may be recommending. Over the years, one of the requests for coverage was for Alzheimer's drugs. Last year, we became the first Atlantic province to add coverage for these Alzheimer's drugs. As you know, with this budget, we have committed $9.2 million to the Cost of Care initiative, allowing the province to fully subsidize the cost of health care for seniors in nursing homes as of January 1st, 2005, 2 years ahead of our schedule. Madam Chair, I would be remiss if I did not note the importance of the business planning process and the budget process. As a department, Health has embraced business planning. We prepare a business plan each year for the Department of Health. The most recent is on our website. We look at the healthcare system from a provincial perspective as one whole system. Furthermore, district health authorities are required to develop business plans regarding what their priorities will be in their region and their communities. A great deal of time and expertise goes into these plans, and priorities and spending are analyzed and weighed before we get to the final business plan. As a member of the House and as a minister, I also feel it necessary to point out the planning process inherent in the budget preparations. As a department, Health is accountable for 40% of the provincial budget. This is a responsibility we do not take lightly. Time and effort is put into developing the budget, preparing documentation, and preparing for your questions. We spend approximately $250,000 every hour on health care in this province, investing more money into community mental health resources, treatment closer to home, and more long-term beds. I feel confident as a public servant that tax dollars spent in health care are being spent wisely. I believe the hallmark of health care in this province for the last 5 years has been evidence-based planning, and to the extent to which there was no planning prior to 1999, Madam Chair, I submit we have fixed health care from that perspective.
The honourable member from Richmond.
Well, Madam Chair, it might be a bit more sincere coming from the minister had he actually been able to talk off the top of his head and out of sincerity rather than a prepared text prepared by one of the obvious new spin doctors that he's been spending money on in his department. But let me point out, Madam Chair, It took me 2 minutes to ask the minister a question, and I received a 10-minute reply. And for those watching here today, it's important to know that there's an intentionally a purpose done to that.
Madam Chair, the honourable member objects to the length of my answer. As a matter of courtesy, yesterday his colleague spoke for almost an entire hour, ran out the time, raised issues that were appropriate for me to respond to, and I used this opportunity and the question to respond. I think it's entirely appropriate for me to be able to do that.
Point of order, the Minister of Health can talk as long as he is required to in preparing his answer. The honourable member from Richmond.
Oh, no, you certainly can, Madam Chair, and I think what's important to know, and a little bit of poli-sci here, is that when they had a majority government, he could get away with that. And I just want to remind the Minister of Health that under minority, we will remember his tactics come budget vote time, where our vote actually does make a significant difference on this. And if the Minister of Natural Resources wants to use the same tack, we'll remember him also if he thinks that something, if he has something that we will not forget, Madam Chair. You received $230 million additionally this year. Is this the amount of money that your department asked for from the Department of Finance as part of your so-called plan?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Obviously, Madam Chair, the list of priorities that we have relative to health and the matters that we would like to address would go far beyond the $230 million. There are limited resources, and I know that members opposite do not like to be reminded of the fact that Ottawa has not provided one additional cent relative to health care this year than they did last year, but that was a limiting factor in the amount of money that we were able to receive through our budgetary requests.
The honourable member from Richmond.
How much more money does health care need, Minister?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Madam Chair, the question as to the amount of additional money that healthcare needs, if we don't embark upon some fundamental and essential planning relative to the delivery of healthcare, then there isn't an answer to that question, because we could, at the way that the nation is currently spending money on healthcare, or spending healthcare dollars, it will go on and expand considerably beyond the current capacity. All governments in this country have a huge challenge relative to how we deliver health care, and that is an important question that's raised by the honourable member. Indeed, there is a need to be able to sit down. In the short term, we have fundamental needs that have to be addressed. The honourable member's colleagues mentioned some yesterday, some were mentioned today. The funds for those needs are not, for some of those needs, are not being met in this particular budget. But the real challenge for all of us is, first of all, to look at how we deliver health care in this country, but secondly, and more importantly, is to develop a culture of healthier living for all citizens of this country. And it is only when we do both of those and we address both of those as we move forward as a society that we are going to be able to come to the point where there is a definitive answer with respect to the honourable member's question. And that is a huge challenge, but it is one, Madam Chair, as I indicated on previous occasions, that we're ready to go and sit down with other governments in this country tomorrow, if necessary, in order to begin addressing these challenges. And we, as a government, have taken significant initiatives and leadership relative to the healthy living challenge that is before Nova Scotians and indeed all provinces in this country. And I can say that we get considerable numbers of inquiries from other governments relative to our health promotion program, and they are showing a keen interest in that. And we believe that we've started a ball rolling that will have a significant positive impact on healthcare in this country. In conclusion, Madam Chair, the honourable member puts his finger on an extremely important question relative to the provision of healthcare in Canada.
The honourable member from Richmond.
But we're not talking Canada, Minister. You see, in 1999, your Premier, your leader said, healthcare doesn't need more money. Healthcare needs better management. He criticized the government of the day for wanting to invest $600 million into healthcare, saying it doesn't need that much more money. We'll put in $48.5 million. We'll stabilize healthcare. We will fix healthcare. Well, Minister, $600 million later, that is what your government has spent on healthcare. You chastise the opposition for saying that healthcare is not in the dire straits that the opposition would have it made. You tell us you have a plan, yet when asked, how much money does healthcare need to fulfill your plan, you're unable to answer that question. I would submit to you that your plan is not much of a plan if you cannot answer that, and that Nova Scotians have cause to be concerned when you as minister and your own government sends out a brochure telling Nova Scotians that at the current rate, the health department will assume the entire provincial budget by the year 2025. Now I'd like you to tell me what part of your plan indicates that we're going to take over the entire provincial budget. I would submit to you that is not a plan. So let me put this question to you. You continually refer that Ottawa is not investing enough money into healthcare. No one disagrees. Let me ask you now, if you go in front of the Prime Minister or the Minister of Finance and say, I need money to fix healthcare in Nova Scotia and to stabilize it so it does not need any more money, how much money would you be asking for the federal government, and what is that figure under your plan of healthcare?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We believe that Mr. Romano, in his report, identified a number that would be appropriate to our needs, and that would be 1/4 of the cost of delivering health care in this province. And I believe our share of that money would be in the vicinity of an additional $250 million. Now, having said that, I again want to reiterate that that will address our concerns in the short term. In the longer term, we need to make some fundamental changes in our culture relative to healthy living and lifestyles, and with respect to how health care is delivered in the province, and not just the province, but it's a national problem that we need to address. We obviously have our responsibilities within the province. So that is the number, Madam Chair.
The Honourable Member from Richmond.
So if you get $250 million from Ottawa tomorrow, health care in Nova Scotia is going to be fixed for how long?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
I would say that it may carry us for a period of somewhere between 5 and 10 years without some fundamental changes in how we do things. And so it's not simply a question that can be projected into the future. It has to be projected within a context that there are going to be real changes made relative to the delivery of health care and relative to the attitude that citizens have with respecting their health.
The Honourable Member from Richmond.
One issue I'd like the Minister to clear up for me, in this famous Blue Book, it does refer to wasted spending in healthcare, and as I said, the Premier was on record as saying that healthcare didn't need more money, it needed better management, and he referred to administrative fat. Yet in this year's budget address, your colleague, the Minister of Finance, says, Speaker, let me take a moment to address, hopefully put to bed, a popular myth. Now, unfortunately, if he could have been reading this back to the Premier in 1999, he may have had a different take, but he said Nova Scotia does not have, as many believe, a bloated healthcare bureaucracy. In fact, independent studies confirmed that Nova Scotia is the smallest healthcare bureaucracy in the country. If that is the case, why would the Premier in 1999 have said that Nova Scotia had administrative fat in its healthcare system, which was the solution to all of our healthcare needs, not the additional $500 million plus that your government has put into healthcare and is asking for more money?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
I expect, Madam Chair, that we've made considerable progress since 1999.
The Honourable Member from Richmond.
Could the minister table with this House all the administrative fat that has been cut under his government, including any positions or spending that has been eliminated that has resulted in the significant savings the Premier seemed to make Nova Scotians believe he could achieve in 1999. So I'm sure you had prepared statements for the previous question I had. I'm assuming you must have a prepared text to show us all the administrative fat that you were able to take care of since 1999.
The Honourable Minister of Health.
I think, Madam Chair, what is significant with respect to the difference in the discussion surrounding health care in 1999 and the situation in which we find ourselves today is that the expenditures that we're making on health care are coming from the revenues that come to this province, and they are not monies that were going to be borrowed in order to address the needs of health care. The money we're putting into health care today, the additional $230 million, all of which comes from the resources of this province, is money that is paid for, and the revenues to address that are accounted for in the budget. And that's a fundamental difference in between the situation that was described in 1999 and the situation that exists in 2004.
The Honourable Member from Richmond.
That, Madam Chair, is just a nice little game that the government likes to play, because while he says he's paying for additional money in healthcare through revenues, they're paving roads and fixing bridges and adding it onto the debt of this province. So, you know, either which way you do it, we are actually paying for our roads and paying for our bridges out of revenues and paying for healthcare out of revenues. So this government has just done a bit of an end run on that system. One of the other issues, Madam Chair, was interesting. When the Premier was the leader of the third party in the 1990s, he criticized the Liberal government of the day for actually introducing the pharmacare program and charging seniors a premium for their drugs. And I'm curious, the Premier made it quite clear when he was third party leader that he felt it was terrible that seniors would have to pay for their drug costs. I'm just curious, in 2004, after 5 years under this government, is it the intention of the Minister of Health or of his government to eliminate the premiums for pharmacare for Nova Scotia seniors as advocated by John Hamm back then?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And as I indicated previously, the expenditures that are being undertaken by this government relative to health care are expenditures that are focused and planned, and they follow a plan. We've outlined a plan to Nova Scotians called Your Health Matters. That is the guiding light with respect to the delivery of health care in this province. And we also have a Healthy Nova Scotia that sets out strategic directions with respect to the Office of Health Promotion. So the approach that exists today is a much more focused approach than had existed previously. What was the question again? The other issue that the honourable member mentioned is that is related to the pharmacare program, and as I indicated earlier this afternoon in answers to the member for Dartmouth North, we have one of the most comprehensive pharmacare programs in anywhere, and what we have been able to do is to keep the copay for senior citizens flat. That's not increased. Yes, there have been additional monies required relative to the premium. whole program was one which we did, in fact, bring forward, but we did it after consultation with seniors groups throughout the province. And nobody likes to see increases. We don't like to see increases in the cost of providing health care to the citizens of this province, but or pharmacare, but the facts are that costs have increased by over $12 million, and that is a fact of life, Madam Chair.
The honourable member from Richmond.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to put on the record just another broken promise by the Premier of how easy it was when he was sitting in opposition to make all these fancy promises about not charging for pharmacare, and under his government I believe there's been at least 2 increases under this, so much for giving seniors free drug costs. Madam Chair, the in-home support program was a program put in place by the Liberal government to provide caregivers with a monthly allotment of money to assist them in the caring of loved ones at home. This particularly applied to people who were staying at home with parents who are elderly and who are in need of constant care and constant supervision. In 2000, this government decided it wanted to review the program, feeling it wasn't being properly administered throughout the province, that it had to be a standard that could be applied provincially. That was 2000. Welcome to 2004. The Minister of Health can't understand why healthcare costs are out of control, can't understand why more people are looking towards long-term care, and yet they still haven't caught on that this program was a means of saving the healthcare system money. It was a strategic investment which at the end of the day paid big dividends for the taxpayers in Nova Scotia, at the same time allowing seniors and loved ones to remain in their own homes for as long as possible before having to turn to long-term care. In Richmond County, long-term care is a last resort, not a first resort. Yet this government has failed to address those concerns again in this budget to try to bring stability to the healthcare system. I'm going to give a scenario to the Minister of Health. 2 scenarios, in fact. I had a call from a lady whose father is quite ill, needs 24-hour supervision, but they want him and he wants to remain at home with his wife. Home care provides so many hours per week during the day. They pay for a caregiver to also come during the day, and they're asking who will be there at nighttime to spend the night to make sure nothing happens. What program or assistance is there for us to have someone stay with him rather than going to a nursing home, which would cost the taxpayers thousands of dollars per month? Another young gentleman called me and said that his mother-in-law was now suffering from Alzheimer's. They wanted to keep her at home where she was comfortable, where she knew her surroundings. His wife had to leave work. They're living on a limited income as it is, both of them having to work. She's now left her employment. He is asking me, what assistance is there out there for my wife to stay at home with her mom, saving the taxpayers and the healthcare system a ton of money per month, yet she's not working. We cannot survive economically under these circumstances. What can be done? My answer to him was, before 2000, there was a program. There was a means to assist you. It's now gone. And they can't understand, because the frustrating part is, Madam Chair, those who were on the program before the freeze are still on it. So they see neighbors that are benefiting from this program, keeping their loved ones at home and trying to ease the financial burden to them. So I asked the Minister of Health, what do I tell the lady in regards to her father and who's going to take care of him at night? And what do I tell the young gentleman about his wife, who's not earning an income, they can't make ends meet, and they feel that this government is forcing them to put his mother-in-law into a nursing home? I asked the Minister of Health, and I can tell the Minister of Health he can speak directly to them, because this tape will be shown on cable TV in Richmond County, so I encourage you to speak directly to them and give them your answer as to what they should be doing and what this government is doing to assist them in this regard.
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The program to which the honourable member refers indeed is one that came out of the municipal programs that were being delivered by municipalities. and it was incorporated within the province's responsibility at the time, I believe, when changes were made relative to the responsibilities, the changed responsibilities of province and municipalities. And the impact at the time the program was taken over is that there were no consistent standards that existed throughout the province. Now, also at the time, there was not an in-home support program that was in effect. We have developed that in-home support program, and we are implementing that, and it is available to citizens of this province. We are also looking at the program to which the honourable member refers. I'm sorry. Home support is what I should be saying, not in-home support. But the program, the in-home support program to which the honourable member refers, we are looking at standards relative to that program. It is something that the standards need to be created before any further consideration is given relative to it. But I do want to point out that the home support program is something that does exist now, which had not previously existed.
The honourable member from Richmond.
Madam Chair, I consider it to be a disservice to the hard-working bureaucracy of Nova Scotia for the minister to suggest that the bureaucracy has not been able to establish standards for this program in 4 years. I believe our hard-working civil servants are much more competent than that. This is a lack of political will on behalf of this government, not the blame of anyone in the Department of Health or of any bureaucrat. This is a political decision. It's hurting Nova Scotia families. It's hurting families in my riding, and it's hurting families throughout this province. And what is it doing? It is forcing families to put loved ones in long-term care facilities where they do not wish to go and where their loved ones do not wish to be. How can this government not understand that $400 per month is a lot better than $3,000 per month, which what it can cost to put someone in a nursing home? This is a strategic investment. Families have been asking for this ever since 2000, when this government froze this. And back in Richmond County, they want to keep their loved ones at home, but there's an economic reality that comes with that. The idea of asking someone to leave their employment to care for a loved one for years at a time with absolutely no support, while at the same time saving the health department and saving the taxpayer of this province thousands of dollars per month, is simply unacceptable. And to hear the minister say today they're still working on standards for the program is laughable, if not another insult to all of these families who have waited so long from this government. It's an insult to even suggest that somehow is the bureaucracy in health that hasn't been able to put together standards for 4 years now on this program. That's clearly unacceptable. His predecessor, the now Minister of Education, wrote to me in 2001 saying they had the standards and they're ready to roll out the program. It hasn't been done because of political will, not because of any bureaucrat's fault. Let me go to another issue, now that we're on long-term care. Could the Minister of Health tell us what the status of the new Richmond Villa is today, April 27th, 2004 at 3:51 p.m.?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate the honourable members. I think it's appropriate to say frustration with this issue. It's one I know that he has lived with for some period of time. I would also, Madam Chair, suggest that while I don't have the same level of frustration that he has, it is a source of frustration for myself, because the issue is taking much longer to resolve than we would want, and I have had private conversations with the honourable member, and he is aware, of course, that there are unfortunate legal issues relative to the property itself. There have been some design questions that have been problematic. I understand that they have been overcome, and it is still our intent to proceed with this construction so that the facility would be open in the spring of 2006.
The honourable member from Richmond.
Well, Madam Chairman, let me give you a bit of an idea of frustration the minister talks about. Under Department of Health's own plan, when the Minister of Education was the Minister of Health, under the plan that they presented to the people of Richmond County, construction of this facility was slated to start in November of 2002. Let me say that again, and Chair, it's April 27, 2004. It was scheduled to start November of 2002. Now we're being told the spring of 2006. Madam Chair, completed by 2006. Well, one can only hope that that time frame is even something that can be maintained by this government. We've been down that road before. And Chair, I can tell you it would be so easy for myself, the Municipal Council, and the residents of Richmond County to be screaming from the hilltops on this issue. The frustration that the family members of the residents themselves, the staff at the facility, the municipality, and the community of Richmond, it's incredible what they've been put through by this government on this facility. And, you know, I use this reference again, and I've got to say, in 2004, we know how to put a man on the moon, but we can't build a long-term care facility within a reasonable time frame. And the minister refers to legal problems. Well, we're a $5.4 billion corporation, this province. That is what we are, a $5.4 billion corporation, and yet we're allowing one project to be bogged down in some design issues, some land issues for years at a time. It is simply unacceptable. And if the minister wants to deal with this frustration and take care of it, I only remind him, he is the minister. Give the order to your staff to take care of this and get the facility built. That is why you are a minister. You have that authority, you have that power, and if someone's dragging their feet, then discipline them for dragging their feet, or chastise them for dragging their feet, and give the ministerial order, this facility is to be built by this date, and I demand this be done. Is the minister prepared today to give his own word, in his own name, to the people of Richmond County, who he knows well, that as Minister of Health, he will give his word that he will do his utmost, and that I won't say the word guarantee, because then he'll say he won't say guarantee, but that he will give his personal word to do his utmost as Minister of Health on behalf of the people of Richmond County, the residents of the facility, their family members, the Municipal Council, which has been more than patient with this minister, that the new Richmond Villa will be open by the spring of 2006. Is he prepared to make that commitment today?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to make it clear that there has not been any undue delay on the part of staff within the Department of Health relative to this project. It is probably one of the most difficult projects that I have encountered in my time in government. If there was something that was going to go wrong with it, it managed to go wrong with it. And I'd present that not by way of excuse, Madam Chair, but simply as a statement of fact. And I believe the honourable member is familiar with a lot of the frustrating events that surrounded this. What I would be quite comfortable in saying to the honourable member is that the spring of 2006 completion date is the objective of the department, and I will do everything within my power to ensure that that completion date is met. And that is because, Madam Chair, I don't want to be talking about this next year. That's, I just don't want to be talking about it next year. I want another issue. And but we sincerely want this project started and completed, and we're doing everything we can to ensure that that happens, and we will continue to do that. And I don't blame the honourable member for being frustrated. I'm extremely frustrated myself.
The honourable member from Richmond.
Well, Madam Chairman, I'm pleased to hear the minister say that. And there has been some problems, but what we've been left, the municipal council, myself, and others been left, is to wonder what is the political direction being given to the Department of Health staff, and how much of a priority is this being said to them? Or is it just one more item on a list of, I'm sure, a ton of items that Department of Health staff have to deal with on a regular basis? What priority is being given to this? That is the issue that we're left to ask ourselves. And I remind the minister again, at the end of the day, you are the single largest department of government. You're the single largest department of a $5.4 billion corporation. It is unacceptable to allow land issues to become an issue. When you're the province of Nova Scotia and you're the government, and you're saying we're allowing land issues to be a concern. Who in a better position to expropriate land than the province of Nova Scotia and the government, if so need be? If it was anybody else, I could sympathize as a lawyer and say, well, yes, it's a difficult position you're in, and if there's problems with the land, it's hard to clear it up. You're the government. You're the Crown. Who better than the Crown to take care of these issues? And yet, we continue to see these delays. And then arguments over the design. Is this the first nursing home that we're building in Nova Scotia? I would think not. So how can we allow design problems to hold up for 6 months and there be argument? Yet, let me put another issue to the Minister of Health. Not that I want to reopen the whole design issue, but one issue that's being asked now by the people, the residents, the staff at the Richmond Villa. The fact is that we realize Richmond County has an